It's my position that we're going about this all wrong. Recently, we've had a number of experts helping us to strive for and achieve certain ideals and objectives. Objectives valiant and worth striving for, such as happiness, gratitude, mindfulness, compassion. That before you go to bed tonight, write down the 10 things you're happy for. And when you wake up in the morning, take out your gratitude journal and write down the 5 things for which you're grateful. And it's my position that we need to flip the causal arrow and instead start from a position of awe. Because if you're starting from a position that we're on this spinning rock, spinning through this massive galaxy next to that star comprised of these minute particles with this brain, surrounded by other people with this brain, it's my position that you can't not be happy and grateful and mindful and compassionate. Now, this may feel a little bit like self-help or some sort of cockeyed optimism, but it's not. It's coming at life from a starting point and recognizing that awe is a starting point. And these aren't the goals, these are the results. So this didn't come to me until about 10 years into my 20 years of studying philosophy and now teaching philosophy, having written numerous books on the subject. I've sort of committed my life to this work. And recognizing that as a starting point, these are the results. So we can take the whole glass half empty, or this poor guy who's complaining to his waiter that his glass is half empty, or the glass half full approach to life, and just throw it to the wind. Because instead, starting from a position of awe is an admission that you are throwing yourself into the world. So when I look at this object, I say, tell me how much liquid is in the glass. This is what I want to know. And while we're at it, what's the capacity? What's left? How much more liquid can I fit into this glass? And tell me about this liquid. The 2 hydrogens bonded to the oxygen, the 2 electron pairs, their charges give us that little dip, the meniscus, which is actually what allows water droplets to fall. And how in the world does wetness manifest from all of this molecular work and the charges that result in surface tension and it really does taste much better when you know that much about it. And so this gets us to those results that we're seeking. We've thrown ourselves into life, we've done everything we can, and then results, the happiness, the gratitude, the compassion, and the mindfulness. And it turns out that this happiness we're seeking is a little bit elusive. I used to push back against this phrase pretty heavily, if ignorance is bliss. Right? As a philosopher who spends his every waking moment writing about and studying about and discussing, thinking the depths of the universe and the human brain and the mind, I wanted to say, no, not ignorance. No ignorance, it's not bliss. And it turns out, ignorance is bliss. And we just don't want bliss. We want something much deeper. What I can best borrow from and translate from Aristotle as flourishing. But flourishing takes work. It takes that throwing yourself into the world. And so we can actually combine this then with my favorite cognitive error, confirmation bias. This is something our brains do naturally. And it's an error, but we can actually flip it and use it to our own benefit. So the human brain, all the brains in this audience, the brains in the front row, the brain in this skull, do the following naturally. We formulate these pet theories and these hypotheses, and then we go out into the world to test them. But we don't test them objectively and scientifically. We close ourselves off and we ignore all of the disconfirming evidence that goes against our pet theory, and instead hand select everything that supports our theory to show us that we were right all along. But if your pet theory is that everything from the seemingly mundane to the grandiose is filled with an experience of awe. Everyone with whom you interact, everything you do, and everything you see, then you can't not experience that happiness, compassion, gratitude, and mindfulness. And so when I walk onto my workspace at the school where I teach philosophy, and I have this brown hovel of an office where I do a majority of my writing. And then I walk out onto the pool deck to work with young men as a water polo coach, striving to be their best and overcome obstacles and work together as a team. And I know that I'm backlit by the sky and the trees, and if I'm lucky, billions of those water droplets that are taking natural light and diffusing it into the visual spectrum. I cannot not experience that deep sense of happiness, compassion, mindfulness, and what I'm feeling right now, gratitude. Thank you. Thank you.